I think if you look at Bucks County, the RNC filed a lawsuit there. The court sided with the RNC.
Sure.
You got to leave those open.
Totally different.
No,
scenario,
but I'm going to get to my point. In Virginia, Governor Youngkin was successful. The Supreme Court said, hey, the state can remove individuals from your ballots or from the pool that we believe may be in the country illegally. So campaigns have apparatuses in place to challenge issues like this. You do have the process after the campaign is over to say, well, wait a minute, we want a recount of the votes. Those things are typical. That's not out of the norm. My advice would be for Republicans, utilize what's legally within our capacity to challenge when necessary. So far, the challenges appear to be in Republicans' favor. I don't think the other rhetoric at this point in the game is necessary.
So legally doesn't necessarily always mean the best or morally right at this point. When you have a system that has been stacked, with Trump-appointed judges in certain states where they have gone above and beyond what has been existing case law about voting rights and access to the ballot, there is cause for concern, especially when you combine that with this constant grievance message. And this is what I mean by that. Trump plays on people's grievance, their grievance about broken systems, about them falling behind. And his answer is not Black, brown, immigrant people, whatever. The second answer is the system is broken. So do not trust elections. Do not trust anything around you. He has made it so whatever works for him politically, he has an audience mobilized and ready to go to question even the most mundane ongoing government system.
It's more than that. This is a blanket assertion that he has been making for months and months that the deck is already stacked, that this is a criminal process that is depriving you, my supporters, of winning this election, and we can't win this election because of this fraud that is being perpetrated on us.
Which is the same thing that he said in 2020.
Exactly. And it is a basic campaign strategy. And part of the strategy is to create this idea that he has tremendous momentum going into these final days of the campaign through what we might call fake polls,
and I think
which are Republican sponsored polls by and large. There are about 35 of them been done in the last few days that are weighted to show him with an advantage and to create the impression of movement so that he can say, look, we were ahead in all of the polls. It also helps his turnout. And it is part of a basic strategy of grievance, being cheated, the same thing we saw that he used to try and stage a coup.
But those tactics are also getting a major assist from China. They're getting a major assist from Russia. They're getting them across social media, where we're seeing these images that are being perpetuated in battleground states specifically, where they're pointing to immigrants who aren't even from those states. A lot of those are stock photos.
There was a video
of
Haitian,
exactly.
a fake video, just to be clear, of alleging that Haitian immigrants were voting multiple times. The video is completely fabricated.
But that is a Russian creation. That was done by the Russians.
And this is how it's going to play itself out on election day, separate from election night. Right? We have driven people away from being normal poll workers. People every 2 years go to the same precinct and have done it for years, if not decades. So we have new people in a lot of these places, new in counties and precincts.
And in some cases, not to interrupt you, but in some cases, what concerns me about the trend is that there's this idea that only the hyper-partisan should be involved in the elections, which is not really the way things work.
Most poll workers are not hyper-partisan at all. They're really doing this out of civic duty. They're at their neighborhood church or school or what have you. But now there are new people in there who are also civically minded. They're going to make mistakes. Why are they going to make mistakes? Because it's the first time they've done this. You make mistakes the first time you do something. But everybody now can show up with phones and say, this is fraud, that is fraud, you're stealing, as opposed to somebody who's just made a normal mistake because they haven't done it before. That's election day.
Trump and his campaign are also going out of their way to intimidate.
I just want to say this goes back to the Liz Cheney factor. He intends to intimidate people involved in the process. He intends for people like Liz Cheney, for the press, to be intimidated and frightened.
And combine that with
for poll workers.
All right, real quick.
But I just don't think intimidation is necessary. Again, the two examples that I pointed out, I've worked on a lot of campaigns. You prepare for these types of things when you want to challenge. My advice would be to tell your voters, get out and vote, bring people with them to vote. And if we suspect something, we're going to go through the legal process for proper challenges, as we have seen. And if they're successful, great. If they're not successful, then that's okay as well.
Yeah,
Respect the process.
Questions are not fraud. A legal process is not fraud. There's a process for these things, and it doesn't mean that there's fraud.
But
That is
supporters can
widespread.
deputize themselves, and that's what's going to happen on election
and that is
day.
one of
And
the
what we
main
saw the
concerning
last
things.
time
We gotta go,
out
Carl.
was not what you're talking about, but rather bogus instances that were cited by the Trump campaign.